Welcome back to Sprinkle with Hope podcast and your host Shane. And today we really truly have an amazing guest. We are so happy that she's joining us. Lori Prichard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
For those of you who don't know who Lori is, to give you a little bit of background about her, she is a newscaster, local. Jason and I have followed her for a long time. We love what she does and what she stands for. We really, truly are grateful that she's joining us today. Lori, if I'm correct, it was last year that you went through a really difficult time. So it was very recent that Lori lost her husband to suicide. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we really want to focus on how Lori is getting through this and the things that she's learning and those type of things. So, again, like I mentioned, we don't want to dwell on that, but maybe give a little bit of your story about, what you've gone through and the things that you're learning from that.
Well, my husband had suffered from what I would have considered situational depression. We had been married almost 15 years when he died. And there were probably 2 times in our marriage that I felt like he was depressed. And each of those times, it was generally linked to his job. And so this latest round, he had changed jobs, and I thought that, he was going to be okay. And in reality, he had continued to spiral downward. And so he took his life. It was in August of 2019, and we have 2 children. My son was 10 and my daughter was 13 at the time. And it was a complete shock to all of us, his parents, his brother, all would just, it was something that took us by surprise. And, being on television, I've spent my career as a journalist asking people to trust me enough with their story to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once this happened, it was natural for me to say, well, I'm going to talk about this, because if I didn't, I felt like that I was being almost hypocritical. Like, how dare I ask other people to share with me their most inner fears and thoughts and about some of the worst things in their life when I'm not able to share that with them. And so it took a little while. I mean, I really, it took a good 6 months even before I was ready to go back to work. But when I did go back to work, number one, I wanted to thank the people in Utah who sent me cards, who messaged me, I had stacks of letters when I went back to work. And not only that, people sent me gift cards. They sent me checks. I sent the money back, and I felt kind of rude doing that, because these people were giving out of the kindness and generosity of their heart. And for me to say, thank you so much, but I can't take your money. I can't.
Yeah.
But I did. I sent the money back to them, but just the flowers and people that I don't know, who just rushed to try and support me and my family. And it started there. And then when I started talking about it publicly, the messages kept coming, and the letters and the emails. And I feel like I have, it's difficult. It is extremely difficult going through a loss, and the grief that you feel. I'll never, ever, ever be the same person I was. But on the days that I feel really gray, there are a host of people who are ready to come to my aid and say, hang in there, you can do it. We're with you. We're praying for you. You've got this. I mean, it's, another thing that we say in journalism, that I think you probably can agree with this is never read the comments. Whatever you do, don't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And I will tell you, at least on my Facebook page, my KSL Facebook page and my Instagram pages, in the year and a half my husband's been gone, I haven't received a single negative comment.
Wow.
Not one. Not get over it. What's wrong with you? Nothing. Not one. And not only that, if someone were brave enough to post a negative comment, I wouldn't have to say anything.
Yeah.
You would be inundated
Yeah.
with people who are so protective of me. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have to do anything. It's yes, it's the majority of people are here in Utah, but also they're around the world.
Oh yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for, that, right? People that just not knowing you, to have the ability to share love and gratitude for just you being you, right? That's the beautiful thing about us as human beings, right? We don't have to do anything super special. We already are special. And so I think that part of your story is amazing, that all of these people who really didn't even maybe even know you at all, never saw you on TV or anything, are still kind enough in their heart to find it in them to, to help you when you need it. And I think that's humanity at its core, is helping to lift people when the lifting needs to happen. And so that what an amazing thing to be a part of, right? To receive all of that love and generosity, and just people who may not have had a ton of money, maybe, I don't know, but that are just giving freely.
Well, so my son's 12th birthday was in January, and of all the things even he wanted, even during Christmas, was a PS5 and a PlayStation 5. And if you have a child who plays video games, those are impossible to come by. And so finally I decided, I bought him one on eBay at an exorbitant price.
Yeah.
And I posted on Facebook about it, and I said, the old me would have it never would occur to me to do that. I wouldn't have bought it. It wasn't worth it. But as a parent who's trying to help a child navigate grief, you'll do anything just to make it okay. You'll do anything. And so I paid. I didn't even say how much I paid for it, but I paid well over the sticker price. All of a sudden, so I post this on Facebook. All of a sudden, I start getting notifications. Money is going into my Venmo account.
Wow.
Someone had found me on Venmo and then posted a link to my Facebook page and said, this is her Venmo account. And so people started putting money. And I, first and foremost, as a journalist, I cannot take your money. And I called my boss in tears, and I said, people are giving me money. What do I do? And she's like, well, can you suspend your Venmo account? And I said, I honestly don't use it that much. I have no idea. So I went, and apparently I don't think you can. If you can, I didn't find the function to be able to do that. So then I post, I so appreciate it, but please stop giving me money. Please. And after about 5 hours, it stopped. And then that next week, I spent my time going in and writing thank yous to all of those people, but then I returned all of their money. Because I ethically, I can't accept money. But here's another thing that I think is very, very important for someone that is going through grief. I found it, as kind of tedious as it can be sometimes, as people had given me whatever it was, if they food or whatever, money. In terms of money, I mean like my family or my friends, right after my husband's death, or flowers or whatever. I found it really important to sit down and write out thank you cards, because it made me focus on gratitude, why I was grateful through something that was so tragic. And so even in this instance, all these people, I wrote them individual through Venmo. You can send messages, and I wrote them thank you cards. And what I said to them was, no amount of money could take the place of the support and I love that I feel from you, a stranger that I do not know. Thank you for supporting my family. And one girl wrote me back, and she said, well, too bad you're a journalist. I didn't know, or otherwise you could have kept the money. And so I thought to myself, she didn't even know who I am. She just gave me money.
That Lori, really is beautiful that you've gone through this really difficult thing, and you're getting showered with all these things, and you take the time to say, okay, I need to show gratitude, even though you're grieving this significant loss in your life. You probably don't know how you're getting through certain days, but you take your mind and you say, I have to show gratitude. I think that's such a beautiful thing. And then, just to tell them thank you. And I just think that's such an amazing thing. So how do you get through tough days? How do you?
Well, there was a gentleman who just emailed me from London. He lives in London, and he had seen my story, and his extended family, 2 of his extended family members had died by suicide. And he said, I just want to show you, I want to show you some support and love, and tell you that there are others out there who are rooting for you. And he said, I often find it helps if I'm out in nature. And I wrote him back, and this is how I do it. This is kind of the exercise that I do for myself. I go outside every single day. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if there's sunshine. And I make myself focus on the birds. And it may sound silly, but when I hear them, I know life goes on. Life continues. I will be okay. And so that is kind of something that I do that helps bridge a little bit of that despair, that I know eventually it will be okay. May not be okay today, but eventually it will be okay.
Yeah, I love that thought. And thinking back to what birds do, right? They're a sign of peace, right? So if it's stormy, they're not going to be around. And so when you hear those birds, it's the sign of peace. And that's why the sound of birds actually helps to calm your nervous system down, because your body's natural instinct when you hear birds is to calm down and relax, because you know that it's peaceful time. And so what things do you have kind of going on right now that are super exciting, and the great things that are happening in Lori's life?
Well, right now I'm doing research for a book that I'm writing. I really feel like there was a lot that I didn't know about my husband's depression that I think that can be applicable to other people. And I know that because I've gotten messages from people who have said, I am living a life much like your husband's, in silence. I'm not sharing with my spouse. And so I have gone through the messages that I've received from people who have either tried to kill themselves or have come close and have lived through it. And I've begun interviewing many of those people, because I want to know what it is that got them through, so that I can share that with other families who are going through something similar. And, you know, people say to me, well, doesn't that bring you down? I mean, doesn't that keep you in the grief that you already are experiencing? And in some instances, yeah, maybe, to be honest. But at the same time, I feel like if I don't use my ability to share with people what I've learned, and not only that, but share other people's stories that they've shared with me, and if we can honestly change the conversation about depression,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot of people I talk to say they're ashamed to talk about it. If we can just talk, if we can save some lives, then what I've gone through, it'll never bring my husband back, but at least
Right.
honor him in a way that I wouldn't be able to if I just did nothing. So that, I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. We can't wait to see that out and be able to read it. I think all of us have something to give to the world, and I think you know, such a tragic thing that you had to go through, but you're taking that and saying, I want to help other people. I want to support other people where I can. So I'm gonna. Often, what it takes is just us and our choice to open our mouth. And you know, a lot of the times we don't like to do that. We don't like to open ourselves up. But I do believe that if we start talking about these things, we can help people. If we don't talk about them, then unfortunately we're going to have things that keep happening that are such tragedy. So
Right.
best wishes on your book, and hopefully you get it written very soon so we can enjoy that and learn from that. So Lori, we have come to a point in our show where we call the double down dose. Jason and I have two questions. We love to ask these questions to everybody. We get such different insights. So the first question is this: how would you define love?
I think love can be pure, but imperfect. And it's the light that can fill you and give you purpose and meaning.
That's awesome. Beautifully said. So the second question to the double down dose is what is your definition of hope, or how would you define it?
Hope is what carries me through moment to moment to moment of my life. And I think after the death of my husband, that is it. That is what I have inside me that keeps me putting one step in front of the other. Because I feel like if you don't have hope, it's easy to give up. And I have hope that my life will be okay and my children's lives will be okay. And if I can cling to that, then one day I know that will be true.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You know, Jason and I don't know you personally except for this interview. We are so grateful that you joined us. We have hope for you that things are going to be better for you, your family. We honestly have that hope for everybody. That's why we've started this journey for us to spread joy, hope, love, happiness to the whole world. And we really love talking to people like you that have something to give to the world, that will open your mouth and your life to us. And we sincerely appreciate that, Lori, and best wishes to you and everything that you do.
Thank you.
Lori, any last words for those that might be out there, maybe struggling and having that shame and difficulty dealing with depression and anxiety and those kinds of things that bring them down? Is there any last words or thoughts that you might have to help those that are listening to find that hope?
I my husband didn't give me the opportunity to help him. He hid his depression from us, the depths of his depression from us. And I think if you're out there and you are struggling, let the people who love you the most help you. Because in reality, they have the most to lose if you're gone. And so I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to be well. And so reach out to them. Don't suffer in silence. Don't.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori. I think that that message will hopefully ring in people's ears as they listen to this, and that they can find hope in your message, and that, you know, that they know that they're not alone, that they don't have to be alone,
No.
that there is always somebody willing to listen, whether that's, you know, contacting Lori Prichard and saying, hey, I need your help. I need help
I'll
through
write
this.
you back. I promise. I write you back.
And so, or, you know, contacting Shane and I, or, you know, somebody, or your spouse, if you're married, contact someone. Don't just live in that moment where you feel like you're all is lost and there's nothing that you can do. There's something, and you can open up your mouth and talk to somebody about those difficult things you're going through. And so thank you, Lori, for sharing that message with our listeners, and anybody that does get in touch with this. Hopefully they don't continue to go down that path, if that's where there is, or if they're not, open their mouth to somebody who may be, right. Like, let's reach out to somebody that might be having those struggles, and that we don't know. Just be kind.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Lori. All best wishes to all that you got going on. I'm excited to hear about this book and what's going to come about. And yeah, let us know how we can support you.
Thank you so much.